Welcome back to A Way Through Inquiry series with Michelle Terrill Heath, where we talk all about her topics on Substack. She is the author of Your Wildest Dreams, A Parkinson's Love Story, which you should check out. We put all the links in our conversation so you can get them there. And Michelle, today we're talking about financial struggles and shame when diagnosed with a disease. And man, I think the biggest thing that I got from this latest Substack was there before the grace of God go I. Can I start with that and ask you, where have you heard this and why did you choose to put this in the Substack? Faith versus finances, and that's kind of what this article is about.
The way I see that our world works is when people are flying high financially, they tend to think, or maybe not think, but act as though that they figured everything out and they've got it all together and they are above any problems. My experience is that that's just not true, and that there is the saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And there but for the grace of God go I, to me, is a match for that saying.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when you see somebody begging or sleeping in a tent on the street or without proper clothing, like a proper coat or shoes, you see when you witness that type of thing, it's very easy when you're not in that situation to come to the belief that you're not in that situation because of something you did,
Yeah. Yeah.
not because you happen to have fallen into a life that works for you in the particular culture and society that you happen to be in.
Yeah.
And when somebody thinks that it's because of something that they've done has lifted them above the possibility of really um, having to face really hard things and not be able to take care of yourself, then that's called arrogance. And I think that there but for the grace of God go I is the opposite of that. It really is an idea that all of us are susceptible to failing, to coming into very hard times, to being hungry, to having something an effect of something that makes us be homeless for a while or forever. And I think that when you're in that type of a more healthy, perspective, that then real good can happen. Real You can actually really have an effect, that helps others.
And if I can build on that a little bit, you said arrogance, uh, which if I look this up online, the first thing I see here is the proverb is an expression of humility. The person who says this there, but before the grace of God, I go I. The speaker is acknowledging that outside factors, such as God's grace, or perhaps one's upbringing or circumstances, have made them more fortunate to escape a bad situation. And in fact, if we apply this to your Substack, you do mention that bad situation being healthcare, for instance, with Andy's Parkinson's. You do acknowledge for a lot of people, you're trying to reach out to a lot of people who may be struggling with financial stuff while dealing with the healthcare system in the United States, which, as we know, is not very good and is very exclusive in many ways. How did you guys navigate and weather some of that exclusivity when it came to Andy being diagnosed? You mentioned this in the Substack a little bit, but there was a
In my book, I mention more about it. Yeah, because we were shut out from the, uh, medical system in the United States for a while, because of the laws and because we did not carry health insurance. We did not have health insurance. We
called a
couldn't afford it at the time.
pre-existing condition. Is that correct?
And the pre-existing condition made us, even if we were like suddenly bought health insurance, we would never be able to be uh, cared for what Andy was suffering from. So when that happened, the curse was we couldn't seek medical care. We couldn't go in and have doctors look at Andy and help us understand what was happening in his uh, body and how we were going to deal with it. But the blessing in it was that there was always alternative doctors, which is we used our whole life, naturopathic doctors and uh, other types of medicine. So we turned to that because that was our only option. And what that did, and I outline this in great detail in my book with Ayurveda and acupuncture and naturo, nat- naturopathy and just so many different types of medicines that you can self-pay, and it's not out if you're working and you're making some money, it's not out of hand to pay for something. It's not like we couldn't pay for anything. We just couldn't pay the many, many hundreds of dollars every month after month after month when we were well.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, I will just say that the alternative treatments is what we turned to, and they helped us in many ways. They helped Andy and me both to get grounded and centered in just what was really going on. They also slowed us down and helped us not jump into drugs and surgery that can be not only life-changing in a good way, but also in a bad way. And, um, that's what we did.
And also, I would imagine that ideas that came up in the Substack, like there's these new treatments like stem cell research, and there's all these like new things that come up on your horizon on your journey that also probably brought up a lot of excitement. But then again, the struggle of, oh, but we can't afford this, that we have no access to this. I want you to talk a little bit about the struggle and the shame, because that's the headline of the Substack. So
Sure.
just tell us a little bit about there's a lot of people out there struggling paycheck to paycheck. If you get a broken leg and you're not part of a system that cares for you, which is totally inhumane in my opinion, and absolutely, like, I think healthcare has been even written into the the accord of human rights, as a planetary citizen. Everyone should have access to healthcare, and every organism actually in biomimicry or in nature actually has systems in which they can care for their own organisms. So we're the only species that really excludes in this way. But what is the struggle and the shame that comes up during these times for people like yourself?
So the struggle comes completely from feeling shut out from being able to give the very best care to somebody who's suffering and shut out financially. And when it's all about the money and you have some money, but you don't have enough, there's the struggle. And then the shame comes because we're all raised, at least in Western culture, in the United States and also in Europe, we're raised to be independent, to take care of ourselves. You're a child and then you grow up and you are supposed to be able to meet your basic needs. And if you have a family, meet their needs. And when you can't do that, I think shame is actually an intelligent response. It's not really the correct response in my experience, but it's what I think anybody with this type of upbringing would feel. And the shame is just like, what have I done? And what haven't I done to put myself in this position? And when you've worked your whole life and you've never been a rich person, but you've always been able to support yourself and pay your bills. And if you get behind, get caught up by a little bit of self-sacrifice and stuff like that, suddenly when you can't do that, I think shame is one of the primary feelings that comes into being. And the reason I say it's an intelligent response is because you're responding to, we were responding anyway, to the expectations of our culture. So we were in our heads about it.
Yeah.
And what I think it's intelligent, but it's not really correct. And the reason it's not correct is because of the where there but for the grace of God go I. It can happen to anybody. And it's not the feeling, the fear and the not being able to take care of yourself isn't really dependent on how hard of a worker you are or the choices you've made all your life and how they have worked. It can happen really suddenly to people. And so the correct response, in my view, is not so much from the head, but more from the heart. And when you actually get to the heart part of it, then that's when for us, when we felt more confident in ourselves to ask people for help and to share our situation and not to hide it. When there's shame, you tend to hide things.
Oh, yeah.
When
Oh, yeah.
there's heartfelt understanding, you tend to share. And when we shared, we got a lot of good advice, we got a lot of help. One of my friends started actually just putting money in our account to help us get through. Um, Family started to help a little bit here and there as they could, but the understanding is the more correct response, in my opinion.
I agree, Michelle. And if we could just stick with that through line for a second, because I would suggest that shame, like you said, to double down on what you said, the shame is sort of a made up thing along with made up economy or finances. I mean, the money situation really is a made up construct. And just like there before the grace of God go I is a faith based system. We all have faith in this system that, people do work, they get remuneration for it. You excel in some ways and you get a lot. The problem right now that I see is very few have way too much. And of course, it's like your friend, thank goodness we have that, you get somebody who actually then realizes they can share.
Yep.
And so the real question here, I think, is, why are we not sharing more when it comes to helping our fellow man and our neighbors, particularly, who may be struggling and who are great people and who are totally worthy, of that investment, and yet people are still hoarding and
Everybody wants to be able to take care of themselves, and I'm not talking about the subset of people with extreme mental illness or,
disability.
physical challenges, like they're double amputees or they're, paralysis, or I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about e every person wants to take care of themselves and tries to do that, in my opinion, and the times when you stop trying are when you are so discouraged and just don't believe you're gonna be able to be successful.
Do you think that we can actually take care of ourselves? I would suggest that it's a like, I'm not sure. I mean, we're not separated as human beings. So I think the financial system in itself and the Western ideas that we're talking about right now do suggest that you do, as a child, have to go out in the world and take care of yourself. But I'm wondering if there's a different state that you can be in, which is that we take care of each other. Like, that's the whole goal, is that we're together in this boat, right? We're all rowing to the same shore. So why is there this idea that proliferates that we have to take care of ourselves, especially when it
I
comes.
think that it comes down to responsibility, Sky,
Okay.
and so I think the one of the first, like, things I learned as a child is that I'm responsible for my actions. If I go and attack my friend, I'm responsible for hurting them, and
That were true for the governance going on right now in the world, because if we wanted more of that responsibility, we'd be in a better situation of leadership. But
And
yes.
so that led into growing older and coming to understand it's my responsibility to find a way to survive in this world. I don't think it's much different from before there even was money, when we were not even in the civilization as we know it. I think people went out and hunted and got their food. They didn't just sit there and expect somebody to bring them their food. But
Well,
if
makes sense,
somebody was
Michelle.
disabled or in tribal circumstances, the tribe would take care of everybody. So I think there's when I'm saying take care of yourself, what I mean is taking responsibility for your own needs. And then, of course, any type of cooperative society or group is going to be better off than the competitive ones that are trying to get it for themselves and not other people.
Well, I want to just read something from your Substack really quickly, which is, I know now that we were never removed from the grace of God, but it sure felt like that. My suggestion to all of us who are not presently struggling financially is to become part of God's grace by helping someone in need. And I think that is kind of part of that, what we're talking about, is that maybe something fell into our responsibility of taking care of ourselves, and we do so exquisitely, and we have such abundance that maybe our responsibility is then to extend that for those who are not necessarily doing so well in that regard.
Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly, and I really do stand by this. For me, what the end of my Substack, it was meant to be like a call to action,
Yeah.
and I think anyone that reads it that, um, I don't I in whatever way you think because you want to, because there's so many ways to help other people, and, um, right now, I have a friend whose daughter had a baby who is only less than a week old, I think now, and is in intensive care, and this baby was late and had late in their birth and had meconium, the poop, all in their lungs, and they're not able to breathe on their own, and there was dysfunction in the placenta, there's, like, all a bunch of stuff going on, and, like, they're having to depend on the hospital and the nurses, on the doctors and friends and family to step up for this little being who's just a few days old. And it's really beautiful to see. And what I'll say is, like, when I heard about this, all I wanted to do was help in some way. And what they're saying is, if you can send money, great for expenses, but if you can make a meal for them and drop it by, if you can just and everyone is stepping up. And so when this happens in an instance like this, it's not that these people were irresponsible or messed up. They're the most responsible people I know in some ways. And so I'm just putting that out as an example, like, in your own life, what comes across your own, vision and your own, experience, step up for people, don't just turn away.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice for uncertain times because the uncertainty, as we see, is very volatile and can take rich men and make them poor, and poor men and make them rich. And if we go back to sort of what we were talking about there, before the grace of God go I, there's also another thing that the meek will shall inherit the earth. And so let us count on meek humility, those things and principles that keep us together, keep us helping each other. I think it's interesting when it comes to children, we're very much more apt to help. Um, and yet when it comes to, baby adults, we're not so much. But I think that's what you're trying to say in your Substack is let's help each other no matter if we're young or old. It's our responsibility in some way to take care of each other. I think if I'm allowed to say that, Michelle, would you like to leave us with that?
Yes, I agree with that, and I will say, to complete my thought here, is if you believe that you are above needing help, then I really think you're wrong, and that's the whole point, is none of us is above needing help, and so we all need to help when we can and not be turned off by helping financially. Financial is a real way of helping. It's equally equal to giving someone shelter or helping someone with some food or people need help financially as well as other ways.
And I would say, Michelle, one of the things I came away with from your Substack is don't get stuck in shame. Shame can really be, like the antithesis in sense of hiding and not really sharing with people what is needed. And so if you are in need of help, please reach out.
Mm.
And I think that you'll find a helping hand somewhere out there. And Michelle, thank you so much for this awesome talk again. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things that help us feed those algorithm monsters out there so we can share this wonderful information with you. And Michelle, thanks for joining me again for another A Way Through Inquiry series. We'll be back in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Sky. I so appreciate you. Thank you.